Greetings and welcome, my dear heroes. This season will once again propel us a small step closer to today's Azeroth. Join me on a journey back to the time of the ancient Zandalari and the war between the trolls and the Aqir insectoids, awakened by curious trolls. We are now back in 16,000 years before the Dark Portal. In this era of Azeroth's early history, life thrived and evolved rapidly, especially around the Well of Eternity, where the planet's arcane energies accelerated the natural cycles of growth and rebirth. From the primordial life forms that once inhabited the land, sentient beings began to emerge. Among the first and most prominent of these early beings were the trolls, a savage and primitive race of hunter-gatherers who thrived in the jungles and forests of Azeroth. While not known for their great intelligence, trolls possessed remarkable agility, strength, and a unique regenerative ability that allowed them to recover from injuries and even regenerate lost limbs over time. The trolls developed a wide range of superstitious customs and practices. Some tribes engaged in cannibalism and warfare, while others sought enlightenment through mysticism and meditation. Another significant aspect of troll culture was their connection to a potent and dark form of magic known as voodoo. Regardless of their specific customs, all trolls shared a common religious belief centered around the wild gods of Kalimdor, whom they referred to as Loa. The trolls revered these powerful beings as deities. In honor of their reverence for the wild gods, the trolls gathered near the peaks and plateaus of southern Kalimdor, where many of these revered Loa resided. The trolls named this sacred mountain range Zandalari and established small encampments on its slopes. The most influential among the troll tribes was the Zandalari tribe itself. They laid claim to most of Zandalari's highest plateaus, considering them sacred. On the peak summits, they constructed crude shrines that over time grew into a thriving temple city known as Zuldazar. As centuries passed, other troll tribes emerged and sought to challenge the Zandalari for territory and influence. Notable among these rival tribes were the Gurubashi, Amani, and Drakari. The Gurubashi and Amani, in particular, controlled vast expanses of land within Kalimdor's dense jungles and forests. While conflicts between tribes occasionally erupted over hunting grounds, major confrontations were infrequent, as trolls were both skilled and ferocious fighters. The vast unspoiled wilderness provided ample room for resettlement, making war a costly endeavor. One place remained off-limits to all the troll tribes, as the Loa had forbidden their witch doctors and priests from disturbing it. This place was a small mound of blackened stone located at the base of the Zandalari Mountains. The Loa warned the tribe's mystics of dire consequences should they ever violate this prohibition. For many years, the trolls heeded this warning, and none dared to defy it. Curiosity eventually got the better of some rebellious trolls who could not resist the allure of the Forbidden Mound. Upon investigating it, they discovered that the black stones were not ordinary rocks but the jagged hide of a monstrous creature unlike anything they had seen before. They believed this creature to be an undiscovered Loa, a powerful spirit, especially since other spirits appeared fearful of it. The trolls, driven by their curiosity and recklessness, performed dark rituals and offered living sacrifices in an attempt to awaken this slumbering entity. Their vile offerings roused a gigantic Kothraxi general from its long hibernation. In a savage display of power, this creature mercilessly slaughtered all those who had summoned it. Unbeknownst to the trolls, this being was Kithix, the same Kothraxi general that had narrowly survived its encounter with Keeper Tyr. Severely wounded, Kithix had fled to the southwest, eventually settling in what would become the Zandalari Mountains, where it entered a deep slumber. The ancient Loa inhabiting the region had hidden Kithics beneath the earth to prevent any further disturbances. Now awake and filled with contempt for the troll civilization, which paled in comparison to the Black Empire of old, Kithics sought to bring about its destruction, knowing it would please the old gods. The Kothraxi reached out with its corrupting influence and discovered the Aqir, a race of insectoids that had remained hidden underground since the fall of the Black Empire. Kithics rallied these Aqir swarms, driving them to wage war and regain dominance over Azeroth. Over time, the insectoids built a vast underground empire known as Aqir. As their numbers swelled and their power grew, the Kothraxi patiently watched and waited. When the time was right, Kithics led the Aqir from their underground realm, and they began to sweep across the land. The troll tribes, despite their experience as formidable hunters, found themselves facing a threat unlike any they had encountered before. Numerous smaller troll tribes fell before the relentless onslaught of the Aqiri legions. As the Aqir menace drew perilously close to the Zandalari mountains, the Zandalari, the most powerful troll tribe, took action. They united the disparate troll tribes, forging a mighty force called the Empire of Zul. Within this newly formed society, the trolls set aside their differences and worked together with a common goal: to annihilate the Aqir threat. The Zandalari assumed the role of commanding the troll armies. From their towering temple city high in the mountains, they could detect enemy movements and coordinate attacks on vulnerable points. With the guidance of the Zandalari, the other troll tribes employed ambush tactics in the surrounding jungles to thin the enemy's ranks. Furthermore, revered priests summoned the wild gods, the Loa, to aid them in battle. These powerful entities joined the troll warriors, tearing through the Aqiri ranks and even inflicting wounds upon Kithics. The trolls, led by the Zandalari, successfully drove the Aqir away from the sacred mountains, preventing a full-scale siege. Kithics, severely wounded by the Loa, fled to the northeast accompanied by a contingent of loyal Aqiri followers. The Kothraxi general planned to regain its strength while the insectoids continued their war against the trolls. Recognizing that the Aqir remained a significant threat, the Zandalari urged the other troll tribes to hunt down the Aqir and their leaders. It became evident that simply killing the insectoids was not enough, as any Aqir escaping underground could establish new colonies, posing a continuous danger. To permanently eradicate this threat, no corner of the continent could be left unguarded. Thus, the Zandalari convinced ambitious troll factions like the Amani, Gurubashi, and Drakari to establish new strongholds across Azeroth after defeating the Aqir. These strongholds would provide fertile lands for the troll tribes to claim uncontested. The Drakari ventured into the frigid north, confronting a colony of Aqir. However, they faced an unexpected challenge: corrupted Tol'vir. These stone Tol'vir, known as obsidian destroyers, had been captured and enslaved by the Aqir. Despite the initial overwhelming force of the obsidian destroyers, the Drakari's cunning tactics and years of battle experience allowed them to overcome these formidable foes. The Gurubashi, on the other hand, encountered corrupted Titan Forged when they ventured southwest, where the Aqir had taken over Ankh-Raj, the prison complex housing the old god Khatun. The Gurubashi suffered heavy losses in early engagements against the Aqir, who were aided by enslaved Anubisath giants guarding the prison. Following the Zandalari's advice, Gurubashi priests organized their tribe into smaller, more mobile raiding groups. This change in strategy allowed them to continuously harass the Aqir and eventually gain control of the territory surrounding Ankh-Raj. The Amani tribe, meanwhile, pursued Kithics to the northeastern woodlands, battling through waves of Aqiri guardians. In a final, savage confrontation, the entire Amani tribe launched a suicidal assault against Kithix and its remaining insectoid minions. While most of the troll army perished, they managed to defeat the Kothraxi. In honor of their victory, the trolls established a settlement on the site where Kithix had fallen, which would eventually grow into the temple city of Solomon. With the demise of Kithix, the Aqir lost their fervor and unity. The war between the trolls and the Aqir underwent a significant shift, with the trolls now focused on exterminating the remaining insectoid presence. After many centuries of relentless warfare, the trolls shattered the Aqir Empire, confining the insectoids to the far northern and far southern reaches of the continent. Central Kalimdor was permanently rid of the Aqir. As the trolls' primary reason for cooperation dissolved, they became more insular and distant from one another. The various troll tribes' far-flung strongholds evolved into vibrant homes, temple cities, and eventually independent empires. The Zandalari retreated to their mountain plateaus, focusing on spiritual pursuits while maintaining a significant influence over the scattered troll societies. In the later stages of the war with the trolls, a group of Aqir gathered at the southern edge of Kalimdor and established a new empire. These insectoids, known as the MANTID, chose not to continue a battle they knew they couldn't win against the trolls. Instead, they focused on conserving and refining their strength, believing that serving the old gods required them to grow stronger without risking their survival. The MANTID were led by a revered empress, but their destiny was guided by a group known as the Klaxi, meaning priest in their native tongue. The Klaxi directed the actions of the MANTID swarms with the goal of preserving and strengthening their race. Instead of seeking revenge on the trolls, the Klaxi turned their attention to a new enemy, the Mogu, powerful titan forged who had guarded the Veil of Eternal Blossoms for ages. Unbeknownst to the MANTID, they were drawn to the Veil because of the lingering presence of the slain old god Ashar, whose heart had been sealed beneath the Veil by Highkeeper Ra. The MANTID launched a surprise attack against the Mogu, attempting to reach the dark essence beneath the Veil. The Titan Forged barely repelled the MANTID and forced them back to the Kipri forests. The Klaxi considered this initial defeat a success, as the surviving MANTID warriors had matured and become more powerful. They waited for 100 years before launching another assault on the Mogu, dispatching a new generation of young MANTID. This cycle continued over the centuries, with each attack making the MANTID civilization more formidable and focused on eliminating weakness and promoting the strongest among them. The Mogu, concerned about this cycle, launched an attack on Mantivis, the MANTID stronghold, to prevent the cycle from continuing. The MANTID were ill-prepared at the time, as it would be decades before the next clutch of warriors would hatch. The Mogu initially devastated the MANTID ranks, including the strongest survivors of past swarms. However, a single MANTID named Corvin emerged as a hero and turned the tide of battle. Armed with Kipri amber blades, Corvin decimated the Mogu forces, forcing them into retreat. Corvin's extraordinary skill led the MANTID to believe he could cheat death itself. The Klaxi honored him as a paragon, and they tasked him with finding a solution to ensure the MANTID's defense wouldn't rely solely on chance. After years of experimenting with Kipri sap, Corvin discovered a way to preserve living creatures within amber cocoons for potentially thousands of years. This preservation technique allowed the Klaxi to preserve their greatest warriors, like Corvin himself, to be awakened whenever the MANTID faced a grave threat. Corvin became the first to undergo this preservation, earning the title Corvin the Prime. In his amber tomb, he symbolized the continuation of the MANTID's great cycle, which he had almost single-handedly saved. As he lay undisturbed in his amber tomb, the great cycle he had almost single-handedly saved continued on, remaining unbroken for countless generations. Today's episode has come to an end, and I hope you've learned something new. Please let me know in the comments how you liked the episode and what new information you've gained. For those of you who follow my videos and enjoy them, please click on the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.